Hello, friends, bienvenidos. My name is Jen, aka Jen Calo on social media, your local witchy friend and intuitive guide through the occult. As always, my lovely husband and co host is David, aka Premier Pulse on social media.
Hi, everyone. On today's episode, Jen explains the monkey's paw.
Welcome to the show. Grab a chair, make yourself at home. Jen's got stories to share, you'll never feel alone.
So, we had a very interesting community discussion post for ghost hunting. We had one comment from Mercy, and then from my understanding, a couple people privately gave you some community discussion feedback as well.
Yeah, a little housekeeping before we get into that, though. We have a lot to go over today, so I'm really excited to film this episode. But before we get there, we do want to start acknowledging at the beginning of the month, we recently discovered that we have subscribers. So I don't know if you knew that. I didn't. And I feel kind of bad because I'm sure they've been subscribed for a little bit. And we just recently discovered it.
Yeah, sorry, I was gonna do that at the end, but yes.
Yeah, it's at the beginning.
At the beginning of the month, yeah, that makes sense. Beginning of the podcast, We want to thank our subscribers that have chosen to do like a monetary energy exchange. So thank you to Vanna and Mozzie for showing support this way. Remember, if you also want to support the show on a monthly basis, you can for as low as 99 cents a month through Spotify. Or if you would rather tip us, you can find my link in bio for like Cash App, Venmo, all those things.
Cool. And then we hit another milestone that I was excited to talk about. We broke 1,000 listens. So our podcast has officially been listened to at least 1,000 times, which I know in today's day and age with like, hundreds of thousands of follows and things like that, it doesn't seem like a lot, but to me, it really is. That's like, 1,000 listeners listening to our stuff, or not 1,000 listeners, but our episodes being listened to at least 1,000 times, which is incredible.
Like we've mentioned before, like with the internet age and the social media age, there's a lot of like keeping up with the Joneses, comparing your growth to everyone else's, but it's like you have to celebrate your own pace and your own milestones too. So yeah, I'm really happy for us. And like, who knew that like this random like passion project would turn into what it is today? People are like, I love listening, whether it's like for David's perspective, my perspective, or both, like, or I just look forward to it every Wednesday on my commute home. Like, it's so sweet. And yeah, I just think it's really cool to connect with our friends and our local community, and not even local community, but like even further out in this way.
I've heard that we might have some international listeners too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Possibly.
Someone's VPN might be working overtime because there are all these random countries.
But I still think Mozzie said that she shared it with her.
Oh, yeah? No, her cousin follows the page, but I don't know if her cousin listens to the podcast.
We might have to do a Spanish episode for them. But.
Well, you know what? Actually, if you do not live in the United States and you're hearing this, please let us know.
Yes.
We'll give you a shout out. But as far as I know, I think it's just someone's VPN working overtime.
Oh, okay. All right, well, let's get into it because we have a lot to discuss, like I said. So for our community discussion post, they kind of go in hand because we had one person submit, but then that person who submitted has a relative who shared their story, just told it to me directly. So Mercy. So Mercy says, I was actually very surprised to hear David's strong opinion on ghosts. Like I mentioned last time, ghosts aren't really my thing. Especially after hearing that Mobono followed you too when you guys moved, as well as the friendly ghost you encountered while ghost hunting, who was trying to save you guys from asbestos. David's ghost tour story made me hella giggle though. Although your ghost hunting experience sounded a little fun, I don't think I could personally ever do it. I am afraid of everything and have even joked with Justin, who is her husband or partner, I don't know if they're married yet, we have to get clarification, that if we ever move into a home that is seemingly haunted, we will need to move ASAP. Luckily, I've never personally had any ghost encounters, but my brother has had 2 that I know of, so make sure you ask him. And then I'll go into it. So I did ask him and I got the stories, but I just want to comment on what she said. If we ever moved into a house that was haunted, we would move out. Like, so if if you and I, Genesis, ever moved into a house that was haunted, we would, in this economy, I'll take the ghost.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we have one in our house, and all
Well,
it does,
supposedly, allegedly.
I think we do, and all it likes to do is like turn on the lights. So that doesn't really bother me, other than like you got light bill money.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are ways to get rid of them. So just let me know. I'm your local Ghostbuster here.
I think the house prices are a lot scarier to me than any ghost right now.
Honestly, yeah, that and interest
That's what's really scary.
will coexist.
All right. So, as Mercy said, she said, ask my brother. And I so happened to did ask your brother. And he mentioned a couple of stories. So he said when he was younger, he used to visit, I think, where his parents or grandparents lived. It was out in the middle of nowhere. And to get to the house, you had to park kind of far away. I think a few hundred yards or a couple meters, but it was like not right next to it. So he said that one time they were over there, and as they were leaving for the night, just kind of going back to the car, him and his sister, got ahead. And he mentioned that his grandpa lived like kind of nearby, and it was kind of an old school type farmhouse maybe, or dwelling, where they had kind of an open basement. I kind of picture as like in the Midwest when they have those, like you go into the tornado bunkers and they have like the little opening that leads into the basement. That's kind of what I kind of pictured. But anyways, he reports that as he was walking from the house to the car, it was kind of late at night and he was with his sister. He shared that he looked over at his sister and his sister was like transfixed on something at the opening of the basement. And according to him, he reports that his sister saw what was kind of a small child, like a small girl, definitely had a human form, but was also translucent. And that apparently the ghosts or the entity in question followed them as they were walking to the car. Now, he reports that he didn't see anything, but what was different was that walk he'd done plenty of times and he never felt like, he's like, I was never scared of the dark or anything like that. But he reports that at that time he did feel something eerie, like something was kind of off and not regular, which, he does confirm that he didn't see anything, but he's like, I definitely did feel something. But according to him, his sister was adamant that she saw like a young little girl following them. So that was that experience. And then I guess a follow-up to that was that years later, he was living with his dad, and I think his sisters were maybe living with mom. Mom and dad weren't together at the time, but sisters would come and visit. So an important fact is at that time, they had a younger sister. She was about 3 years old, according to this person. And they were so he, for whatever reason, said, I'm just going to go to bed. So he went to sleep. But an important detail is that he closes his door at night. So he's like, I close my door like I always do. And he said kind of sometime in the middle of the night, he got awoken and the door was like open or ajar. And standing at the door was a little girl. Well, he assumed that it was his younger sister who was 3 years old at the time and told her like, hey, what are you doing? Like, are you okay? And I guess she didn't say anything. And so then he was like, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? And she never responded. But what he reports is that he saw her kind of like run towards the corner of his bedroom. And at that point he had like woken up and was like staring and was like, yeah, like, are you okay? Like he thought he was talking to his little sister, and he's like, I was wide awake and like for sure I was seeing this thing. And I guess like when the little girl was in the corner, he like got up from the bed and went to go turn on the lights, and as soon as he turned on the lights, like she just disappeared. So then I kind of asked him, I was like, well, do you think that was the same little girl from years prior? And he said he conferred with his sister and they kind of maybe came to the conclusion that it was the same little girl. So I don't know what the situation is. Maybe there's a spirit following your family, Mercy, but that shows itself in the form of a little girl. But that was kind of the story, which I thought was interesting. I thought it was very interesting because the way he told it was, there's There was no like question of like, oh, maybe I saw this or didn't. Like they definitely saw something.
Yeah, we'll have to do like a ghost part 2, just like Alien part 2, and just have a bunch of like,
No, I said from the last episode that's not what I'm doing a part 2 on. So maybe you get a special guest.
okay. Well, anyway, time to get into the monkey's paw.
The monkey's paw. I'm so excited.
Yes. So this is a fictional short horror story from an English author named W. W. Jacobs in 1902. The reason that I really like this story is because it is a concept that is easily like sort of translated into spirit work and manifestation and how things can go sideways if you're not careful. So I always summarize this concept as like, don't monkey paw yourself, don't monkey paw the process.
And we use that saying in our relationship quite a bit, though.
Yeah.
Jokingly, actually a lot jokingly. I'm like, hey, don't monkey paw yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So now you'll know what that means after listening to this episode. So here are the spark notes of the horror story. So a father and son were hanging out with a friend of the family. And that friend of the family was in the military, and he bought a mummified monkey's paw he obtained from an Indian sorcerer, Indian like from India. He explained that it gives 3 wishes, but they all come with a price. He wanted to toss it into the fire because he was like, I paid my price for playing with fate, but the father retrieved it and he was like, no, I'm interested in this. And the friend was like, okay, don't say I didn't warn you. So the first wish that...
Wait, so hold on. Sorry, I don't mean... Okay. So he bought it and didn't use it? He just...
No, he did.
Oh, he did, but he didn't say what happened.
He didn't say what happened.
Got it. Okay, sorry. Continue.
Yeah. And he was like, this thing is whack. And he tried to throw it into the fire. And he was like, no, I want to try it. And he's like, okay, don't say I didn't warn you. So then the father, the man of the residence, he had like a either like adolescent or young adult son. So the first wish that the father asked for was to pay off their mortgage. Like, I want to receive a bunch of money at once to pay off our mortgage. Later that night, when the son had to go into work, he got into like this freak accident at work. So then the company representative stopped by and was like, I'm so sorry. Like, there was a freak accident at work. We're going to pay you like a lump sum to try to make it right, like a wrongful death settlement. And that was the same amount that was outstanding for their mortgage.
Ooh.
Yeah. So like technically he got what he wished for, right? Yes. But it came with like a freak accident and a price. And then the wife begs for the second wish to be used to wish the son back to life. And against his gut instinct, he complies.
Oh, wait. So the freak accident killed the son?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah, it was a wrongful death.
Okay.
So the father complies to wish the son back to life against his like better judgment. Later that night, they hear a knocking at the door. The father has a gut feeling that this isn't right, and the wife like was so excited to open the door, but before the wife opens the door, he uses his third wish. The knocking stops, and before she can open it, nobody is there. So that's the cliffhanger. Like, that's how the story ends.
Wait. Okay, hold on. Okay. So the dad wishes the kid back to life. Mm-hmm. There's a knocking at the door, and they don't open the door.
The mom is so excited she can't like open the door fast enough.
Okay.
So that gives him time to use his third wish. They don't overtly say what the third wish is, but they say like the story ends that as soon as she opens the door, the knocking stops and nobody's there. Oh,
so basically the father regretted bringing him back to life.
We can assume that the third wish was to kill him again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But what's the monkey part? What's the monkey paw part in the second wish?
He's probably like a zombie.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
With like guts out and stuff and like an eye popping out, you know?
So basically, monkey's paw is the old adage, be careful what you wish for.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So that's why David and I are very excited for this episode because just like we talked about in eclipse season, like if you try to manifest right now, It could A, just be a waste of your time and nothing could happen, or B, it could go south because the luminaries, the sun and the moon, are conjunct or touching the nodes of fate, which are geometric points in the sky, and that can cause a lot of chaos and instability. And what you manifest for may come in a way that you don't want, which is why we don't recommend doing certain astrological beliefs.
Manifestations or practices.
Yeah. Do not recommend manifesting at this time. Again, do what you want, but this is why we say that.
Yeah.
So
I've noticed you got a little series going because it started with eclipses. We talked about spring. Ghost hunting was kind of a break, but we're kind of back into like this time of year, right?
yeah. So I do that intentionally when I schedule our topics. I try to make it relevant with like the astrological calendar. But anyway, the media has done many adaptations inspired by this short story. One of my personal favorites is from The Simpsons, which is episode 3 or season 3, episode 7, if you want to watch it. But the 3 wishes are that Bart wishes for The Simpsons to be rich and famous, which ends up with the family being like famous and hated for having like all this money. The second
The
one,
Kardashians, basically.
I was thinking the same thing. The second one is Lisa wishes for world peace, which results in the aliens coming to Earth and like forcing peace upon.
No, oh yeah. So that's a really good one. So what happens actually in that one, I know exactly that episode. So she wishes for world peace and then all like the weapons disappear. And so the aliens actually invade and then the humans have nothing to protect themselves with. So I think, I could be wrong, but I think the aliens take over the world with just like wooden planks or something like that. Or I think to beat the aliens, they try to use like wooden planks. But that's what it is. She does get world peace. So that means all the humans get along well. But then the aliens are like, okay, cool. So we can take them over because they can't defend themselves.
Yeah. And then the third one, because Homer's like, I'm going to cheat the system. I'm going to get this right. He asked for a turkey sandwich in a very specific way to where he's like, no, there's no way they can fuck this up. So he wishes for a turkey sandwich, but the sandwich is too dry.
Oh, man. That's awesome. Yeah. So the way I know about the monkey spa is also through pop culture. And the episodes that I saw, there's 2. I don't think I saw this episode, but I know it's based on this. There's a Goosebumps episode based on it. But the one I saw that was really good, and I'm going to be maybe dating myself a little bit for my fellow 90s peers out there. There was a show on Nickelodeon, which Nickelodeon's kind of in hot water right now. But there was a show on Nickelodeon called Are You Afraid of the Dark? Mm-hmm. And it was basically these group of kids. They called themselves the Midnight Society. And they would do ghost stories or scary stories out in the woods. It was kind of a freaky premise, but there was a monkey spa episode. And when I was a kid, I was like, ooh, that's so scary. I actually was scared. But that's kind of where I learned from it. But yeah. Also, a side note, kind of a project that I think would be kind of fun. We've made a few references to pop cultures. We talked about a King of the Hill episode. Now we're talking about the Simpsons episode, a few movies. I think something that might be fun to do if we get more subscribers. So one thing that we can give them is a watch party with our subscribers. Totally stealing this idea because I think a lot of podcasts do that, but there's a podcast I used to really religiously listen to. Unfortunately, they quit. But they would do watch parties because it was about King of the Hill. So they would do like, you know, our subscribers can watch episodes with us. I think that might be something fun to do. If we get enough people interested, maybe we could do a watch party about some of the things we talk about.
Yeah, for sure. We referenced a lot of different episodes of things.
Yes. But yeah, so basically, moral of the story, be careful what you wish for. And not just a manifestation, right? I think just in general, it's probably good to be conscientious of, again, like we talked about recently, of like what you have. And the things you're asking for, like, it's a good time to reflect, like, you know, why am I asking for this? Like, why do I need it? Or it could just not necessarily be materialist. I see you smiling.
Yeah. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily even need to be materialistic things, but, just take an inventory of what you have and, like, is this really what you want? Is this really what you need, or is it just a want?
Absolutely. I will say, though, that there is some toxic positivity of, like, count your blessings and be grateful for everything
Correct.
and like do not want more.
Yes.
That is used by, I would say, really the upper class to like oppress people of like, well, you're not grateful for what you have. Which again, like, do take the time to count your blessings. Like, you know, if you're able-bodied or mostly able-bodied, like I am able-bodied, I woke up, I have hot water, you know, the little things, because I work with a lot of like asylees and people fleeing from different countries. Like, yeah, it really has caused like a big shift in my perspective of like, wow, I am truly blessed. But at the same time, you could always want things to get better, but not to the point where you discard everything in your life and you're like, my life sucks, you know?
Correct. Yeah. And I guess my caveat to that is when I'm saying take inventory is like if you're worried about it, because it's also not good to like stress about like, well, I don't have this, I don't have this. And even myself, somebody who like tries to live by the principles of like, I don't know, would you say we're minimalist?
We try to be.
We try to be. So yeah, I mean, we try to be minimalist, and I get caught up in it, right? I get caught up in like, you know, I can give examples. Like I bought a car recently, and like I definitely wanted that car, and I think it was time. But like maybe I was a little bummed. I was like, oh, maybe I could have got like a little better trim, or I could have got this option. And it's like, no, like you got a new car, you know, like appreciate that. So I totally get what you're saying. Like don't just be like, well, I'm happy and settle. I think I'm more saying like,
Yeah.
if your mind is racing or you're anxious about like, dang, I don't have this or I don't have that or I wish I had this thing, then that's probably the point to be like, you know, think about what you have. I jokingly say it, but it's kind of like, oh my gosh, you're gonna have to correct me. But who said more money, more problems? Is that Biggie?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like, yeah, like sometimes the more, not even stuff, but the more you get in life, whether it be materialistic, whether it be, you know, social, whether like there's just more responsibilities, right? And I think the monkey spot doesn't always have to be as dramatic, but like even simple things, like let's say you're like, dang, like I'm kind of lonely. I don't really have like friends or whatever, but then you have like a million unread text messages, right? It's like, you know, you're asking for friends and they're there. And let's say you do make a bunch of new friends, you know, and now you don't have time to spend quality time with all of them. So like, you know, just think about those things.
Yeah. The reason I was smiling earlier is because I remember one time where I was early in my career, I was working for a nonprofit, and then a grant fell through and they were like, hey, we can't hire you for a season. And then I couldn't find a job to bridge that gap. So then I had to take on, at one point I had 3 jobs at the same time. And I remember that like, and I totally disliked my nonprofit supervisor at the time. But I was working as,
Is that the guy who they called the weasel?
the principal.
Oh,
Below
okay.
him, my site supervisor, I should say, which if you're hearing this, fuck you. But
I don't think they're hearing this.
I don't think so. But in case they do, I just want to make it clear.
We're talking about being careful with your manifestations and what you throw out into
I'm
the
not
world.
manifesting everything. I'm just sending a message. But anyway, so I was a cashier at Target and they came to my lane and they were like, oh my God, you're a cashier at Target. That's so cool. I'm like, not really. I'm working 3 jobs right now and this fucking sucks. And then they were like, well, at least you have 3 jobs. And I'm like, fuck you. I don't want to have 3 jobs. I don't want to work 3 jobs to make ends meet. Like, this sucks. So yeah, that just reminded me of like that toxic positivity. But at the same time, she's right, because it's like I was able to make ends meet. I just hated that I had to have 3 jobs to do it. But yeah, I warn people that you know, for example, like don't manifest weight loss, because if you're like, I want to lose 50 pounds and then you lose a limb, you know, stuff like that.
I know. It's like, I want to lose 50 pounds. Okay. You're going to lose an arm now.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then also just like, for example, I just really emphasize, like, try to manifest the end product and not the means. For example, if you're like, oh my God, I want a really high paying job, And then you do get a high paying job, but the catch is there's a lot of mandatory overtime and doubles, and you don't have a work life balance, and the environment is toxic, but you can't leave because the money's good.
Oh gosh,
right?
that's kind of where I am right now. I love my job. It's not, I wouldn't say it's toxic, but I think across all boards, sometimes staffing becomes an issue. I'm just like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I'm putting in the double, triple time right now for sure.
So, how I try to end my spells, especially if they're for cash, I say to the harm of none through legal means in liquid form. That's how I end my cash spells.
Okay.
But if it's not cash, then to the harm of none through legal means.
Yeah, we should get that trademark and make money off the trademark.
That's a very common saying. I don't think I could trademark it, but or maybe you can.
Paris Hilton trademark, that's hot.
True.
That's 2 words.
Very true. Okay. Yeah. So, because of that, yeah, just when you're doing spell work, like again, or manifesting, just be mindful of the timing astrologically if you care about that. And then also just like how you petition what you're trying to say. Right now we have a double whammy. We're in Mercury retrograde and the eclipses. It's really not a good time to manifest right now. But again, if you want to, I ain't your mama.
You know what's funny? Kind of the title, The Monkey Spa. I bet you that damn monkey lost its paw because they were trying to manifest something.
That would be funny.
Oh man. Cool. Yeah, so let's talk about maybe some examples where we've witnessed the monkey's paw. There's this, and I should have looked it up, but there's also this legend in, I don't know if it's like just Mexico or just Spanish culture, but it's called La Mano Peluda. And I used to always, that is one thing my uncle would be like, La Mano Peluda, but I never knew what it was. It translates to hairy hand. But yeah, I don't know what that is. I just thought about it. I was like, I wonder if that's like the Spanish monkey's paw. But have we ever monkey pawed ourselves? I know we joke a lot about, like, we're like, careful what you wish for. You don't want to monkey paw yourself. But I don't think I can come up with like a blatant example of when I've monkey pawed myself. I think, one thing that I could say, like, you wish for something, but then like the outcome wasn't exactly was, I know people are going to get so annoyed with this example, but I think our house, right? Like we wanted a house and damn, I don't regret the outcome, like you said, but it was a freaking process. And at one point I'm like, I'm so over it. Like I just wanted to quit and give up. But it's like, again, that like, I want this. And like, nothing is free in life, right? So I would say that's probably like the closest example I have. I don't know. I kind of just flow through life. So sometimes I maybe don't pause and think of like, I wanted well, no, I do have one. When I was a kid, I was in high school. I was in home ec, and they had something called FHA. I don't know if it's called that anymore, but it stands for, or it used to stand for Future Homemakers of America. It was like FFA. And they had a competition where it was like a cooking competition. And I remember it was going to be through rounds. Like it was like the prelims, and whoever got to the prelims got actually to travel and go to like the finals, which were in Sacramento or something. So I think it was only like 4 of us. So, and then the top 3 were going to go. And I was like, oh, like I got this in the bag, like top 3. Like, of course I'm going to make at least top 3. Well, I got 4th. So I didn't get to go. I was really devastated. And then I got a call from like the club, the club organizer, and they're like, hey, one of the girls, like, something happened to her. I think she like dropped out or had like a family thing and couldn't make it. So they're like, oh, since you're the runner up, like, do you want her spot? And I was like, yeah, of course. And I was so excited. And I was like, I don't remember wishing her like ill. I wasn't like, oh, I'm glad something happened, because I don't even think anything bad happened. I think she was going on like a family vacation, but I was just so happy to get my opportunity, even though I hadn't come in the top 3. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad she dropped out. I'm so glad she's not going. And now I get to go. And yeah, so I went. And when I showed up to the competition, I forgot a crucial part of like, I don't remember the specifics. I think like the recipe or something. And I got disqualified before even being able to compete. And I was devastated. I called my mom. I think I was crying. I was like, I didn't even get to compete. They didn't let me compete. And it was a technicality. I got DQ'd on a technicality. And again, I don't know if that was like monkey's paw because again, I didn't wish her ill or anything. It just so happened she couldn't go. But yeah, I was so excited to go. And then I got my chance and I got disqualified before I could even start. So
I could see that being
like
like
a monkey's paw.
or if something bad really did happen to like her family or her, then I would have said, yeah, that's definitely monkey's paw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That one's on the border.
that's my example.
Potential monkey paw.
Potential monkey paw. Baby monkey paw.
Yeah.
All right. What do you have?
By the way, I looked up la mano peluda, and that's not monkey's paw.
Okay.
It's basically like, you know how they say don't stick your foot out or else like whatever's under your bed will like grab you.
Ooh.
That's what la mano peluda is.
Worth an episode, maybe?
Maybe.
All
yeah.
right. So what are your examples?
I'd be like, rub my feet.
You're like, since you're reaching over anyways, how about a foot massage?
But yeah, so I feel like the job thing was in reference to myself. So I really manifested. I even put it on TikTok back when I did have a TikTok. Now I don't like TikTok. But yeah, I did like a super intense, like multi-week manifestation for a job that paid the bills.
Okay.
While we were living here. And I did get the job. It wasn't up to my expectations. It was like horrible hours, horrible turnover. It really affected like my work-life balance, my sense of self, like everything. Also, apparently I did my taxes incorrectly. So yes, I was getting a lot of money. I was getting more money than I should have. But at the same time, it did keep me afloat and help me get to my next destination. So like, I don't regret it, but I definitely see how I played myself.
Yeah.
I think that's like another way to say like you monkey paw, like you played yourself.
You played yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like, I feel like I don't regret it again because I'm very happy where I am now. But, if I did want to go in a different direction, I think I would have said like a high paying job that's work from home or hybrid with stable hours, little to no overtime. Like I would have had like a whole laundry list, great benefits, yada, yada, yada. Like benefits were trash.
And I think that's part of it, right? I know exactly what you're talking about. And when we were in a desperate situation, so it's like, it was just like a Hail Mary. Like, honestly, I'll take anything. And the universe was like, bet, I'll give you anything. Yeah.
You mean anything?
Anything. So, yeah, I never thought about it. But yeah, that's definitely a monkey's paw. That's a really good example.
But it wasn't so devastating that I regret it. I do not regret it at all.
Yeah. This one, listeners, please submit this is like the top one. If you've ever thought about submitting, and I'm not going to name people, but I might actually message you directly to the people that listen and don't post. Please post your stories because this is one I do want to hear from y'all.
And then I forget, I feel like it was probably an episode of Stars Like Us from Eliza Kelly. I don't remember, but I was listening to a podcast. I really tried to look it up for like an hour today and I could not find the episode. But there was some podcast episode where someone was talking about manifesting abundance. And all they said was abundance. So then every other day, their mom was like, I went to Ross and I thought of you and I'm bringing you this. I went to TJ Maxx and I thought of you and I'm bringing you this. So now their mom is bringing them a bunch of like cheap crap that they don't want. So then they were like, oh crap, like this accidentally like hexed my mom into bringing me a bunch of random crap I don't want. So then they had to like undo it and then redo it to be like, I want cash. Give me cash, abundance in cash form. So that's another way.
So they did get abundance, but not in the way they wanted it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think we've covered the monkey's paw. Be careful what you wish for. Don't play yourself. More money, more problems. All those great adages that life has for us. But yeah, we really, really want to hear your stories. So yeah, message me, DM me, post, whatever, get them to us. And I think I will be making calls this time.
Yeah.
Okay. We do have a few questions from Mercy. Thank you. Mercy's holding it down for us this episode. I really, really appreciate it. So her first question is, have you personally ever experienced a monkey's paw situation where a desired outcome led to an unforeseen negative result? So yeah, we covered with the examples. I think those were kind of our big ones. Number 2, are there any real world phenomena or historical events that can be seen through the lens of the monkey's paw concept where well-informed actions led to unintended harm? Yes. I mean, I'm not you know me. I try to base in reality, but like, I think the most recent big event we had as a society and as a global, situation is the pandemic, right? A lot of people are like, well, I need a break. Because I heard that, right? I heard like, damn, like I kind of wanted a vacation, but not this long of a vacation, right? Somebody out there in the universe monkey pawed the shit out of the earth. They just asked for some time off, maybe some alone time, and they got it. So I'd be curious to see if the corona pandemic was, or the COVID pandemic was a monkey's paw.
Yeah, I could see that being an interesting conspiracy theory. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of like the quote, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions."
Yeah.
Because there are so many like good intentions in history that have led to like horrific consequences. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And then any other bigger ones as far as like maybe global or the U.S. space that you can think of?
I know that there was I don't know if this counts as a monkey's paw, but it's the first thing I thought of. There was a country in South America, I can't remember which one, that was like, we want to become like a part of the techno future. Mm-hmm. And we want to start investing some of our money into like the tech space and become like a country that people can take seriously. And they invested in something called SafeMoon. SafeMoon ended up becoming a scam.
Oh.
And now the guy is facing like jail time and you can't like sell it or trade it.
And this was an actual like a GDP basically. Well, I know El Salvador uses Bitcoin as a currency.
I don't know if that was them. There was also an African country that invested, because and it wasn't too much, but I also invested in SafeMoon.
Yeah, you monkey pawed yourself there too.
Yeah, I did. So I was like, damn. But yeah, that's how I know, because I'm following the forums of people being like, I hope this guy goes to jail. But
yeah, so yeah, I don't know any more real world phenomena. I guess you could also, and this is an episode I do want to do also, you can also like talk about the butterfly effect, right?
Ooh, that would be a good one.
So for those of you who don't know, the butterfly effect is like the smallest thing, or not even smallest, but something completely unrelated can have like a massive impact on another related situation. So again, maybe not monkey's paw, but I think there are quite a bit of examples where certain things can lead to some greater things.
I had a butterfly effect that massively changed the course of my life.
Ooh.
We need to do that next month.
So there we go.
I will save it, but I'm hyped.
All right. So butterfly effect is another episode we're doing. I think it might be on the list, so for sure. Okay, so that's on a global level. All right, next question. How can individuals and societies guard against falling into monkey paw traps in the pursuit of goals and aspirations? I think, like Genesis said, is be very, very clear with your intentionality as well as what you want, right? I think with goals and aspirations, and this is just in general, for like not even talking about monkey's paw anymore, but when you do set goals and you set aspirations, be realistic, right? The classic question they have in job interviews is like, what's your 5-year goal? And while I find that that question completely frustrated because my 5-year goal is to not be broke is basically what I think everybody wants to answer. But I think that is important, right? It depends where you are in your life. If you're a teenager about to embark into the real world, like set realistic goals, if you're going to college, like what do you want to do with that after college? And don't just throw stuff in the universe, right? Like if you're in high school and you were like, I want to be successful. Well, like, yeah, that's great, but narrow it down to what fits you. Or I want to help the world. I want to save the world. Like things of that nature, those big goals and aspirations, which are always great. And like you said, I think always paved with good intentions. If you don't sit down and take the time to do the work to decide like, this is what my end goal is going to be. And this is how I want it to be. And again, not just monkey's paw, but if you just throw shit out in the universe without like direction and putting in the work, I don't think you're going to get it. Or in this case, you might not get what you ask for.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree. You basically summarized everything I wanted to say. And then the fourth question is the same thing. Ultimately, what lessons do you think we can learn from the monkey's paw concept? Which, like you said, be intentional with your direction, spiritually or not. Even if you're not a spiritual person, like intentionality is good. But also not like always wishing for more. I mean, yes, wish for more, but like we said, like without completely disregarding all of your achievements and blessings now. Yes. You have to find that balance ultimately.
And I think, funny enough, I think we do this on this podcast. I know when you and I started this podcast, our goal was never, I think, to be like, we want to be the biggest, the best. I think we're like, we have good conversations. I think we have enough to talk about for sure. And even if it's just like an audio diary for us, right? We never threw it out in the universe that it's like, this is what we're going to do from now on. But it's something we enjoy doing. And I think that's kind of part of it, right? Find those things that you enjoy. And like we talked about during eclipse season, right now is the time to experiment, take that leap that you haven't taken.
Yeah, definitely.
Have we ever said the story of the day that we decided we're going to do this podcast?
I think we did.
The very specific story?
Let's do it. You go ahead, baby.
Well, we were sitting, so my truck had died, speaking of like bad things. And we were sitting there waiting for the tow truck to come. And as we were waiting, we saw this little car. It was smaller than a Volkswagen Beetle. Like it was a very, very tiny car. It almost looked like a smart car. Yeah. But super old. I'm talking like probably from the 90s. Well, they were driving, and as they were driving, they kind of passed us, and we noticed, I don't know how, but they had a lawnmower stuck to the back and like all the gardening tools on the roof of the car. And again, this is a tiny ass car. And we see them pull up to like, not our neighbors, but near our neighborhood, and they start mowing the lawn. So it was this guy who did not have a truck, did not have a trailer. But he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna do my work, my hustle, my business. And yeah, he had a whole ass gardening business basically out of like a smart car. And we just found that super incredible. We're like, damn, like if somebody like that can, and I hate to say bootstrap themselves, but really just like, let's just do it. I said, hey, you and I, like, we have resources. I know a little bit about editing. Like, if he can do all that, then why can't you and I start a podcast?
Yeah, I just want to reframe that. That can sound a little like condescending, like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. It's like,
yeah, no.
It was more inspirational.
Yes, it was very inspirational.
It was more like, damn, he has that hustle.
That drive.
Like, this shows that even if you don't have much, you can make it happen. Mm-hmm. And we were like, we don't have experience, but we can make it happen. Yeah. And we already had some recording equipment for some reason. I can't remember why. So we were like, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think that's when we filmed our first, either that day or the next day, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you still have time to post questions for the topics in April. Next week is going to be scrying. followed by the big three: Sun, Moon, and Rising. And then lastly, we're going to round it up with La Manda, which is the request. How can people get a hold of you, Genesis?
Again, my Instagram is Jen Kahlo, GenKahlo. Or if you want to get in touch by email, tarotwithgenesis@gmail.com. Remember, the magic within you makes the world a more beautiful place. Blessed be, and signing off.
Bye, everyone.